Hello, and welcome to this video essay, in which I will be analysing both myself and the game Sekiro Shadows Die Twice through the lens of psychodynamic theory. More specifically, I will be using Sekiro as a case study to analyse what about the game attracts me to it and motivates me to complete it. When playing games, there are generally three elements at large that attract me to them: narrative, gameplay mechanics, and social interaction. Sekiro is a strictly single-player experience, so in this video I'll be focusing on the first two. To do this, I will first discuss Sekiro's narrative using Carl Jung's theory of the shadow, and then secondly, I will discuss Sekiro's gameplay mechanics through the psychodynamic theory of embodiment as it applies to games.
これでアシナの世は明ける。
Carl Jung's shadow is essentially the parts of one's psyche that are neglected in everyday life. These are not necessarily negative aspects, but they are deemed undesirable by the individual in question, whether consciously or not, for one reason or another. Games with multiple endings have always fascinated me, as I feel they offer a unique insight into the player's psyche through the lens of the character that they are playing and how they choose to pilot that character. When I play games, I tend to try and behave in ways that align most closely with my real-life moral character, and thus tend to achieve what people generally would refer to as the good ending in the games I play. Sekiro's narrative is split between two main outcomes that can occur depending on the player's actions in the game. But one of these paths can result in a few possible variations on the ending, with differing emotional tones. They are all widely more positive than the other, which is quite definitively considered the bad ending. I did not play Sekiro blind on my first playthrough. I was already aware of which choices would lead me to the good endings as opposed to the bad, though it is not my initial playthrough I want to focus on when making this point. Rather, I would like to discuss one of my subsequent playthroughs when I was attempting to acquire the Platinum Trophy on PlayStation. When it came time for me to get the bad ending, I found I really didn't want to do it. Throughout the game, you can find various different bottles of sake, which you can then give to some of the NPCs, in response to which they'll chat to you about their lives and backstories. The bad ending involves betraying and or killing many of these characters, which at this point I had just spent close to 100 hours interacting with and talking to. When I actually followed through on it, I found it to be by far the most impactful ending of the game. I felt genuinely upset at what I'd just done, even knowing I was about to enter New Game Plus and reset the game world anyway. The final cutscene of the game you are awarded upon achieving the bad ending is nothing but a black screen, with a somber narrator calmly explaining to you that what followed was the worst massacre of the era, all at the hands of the man you have just spent a dozen hours embodying. But hey, at least I got my trophy, right?
人間をやめよ
Embodiment, in the context of games, is when the line between the player and the player character begins to blur. The player begins to embody the character they are playing as. In my case, I will begin relating to the character and empathizing with them and their experiences, often far more closely than I may do with a character in a book or a film, as though I were in their position instead of merely observing it from the outside. I have found that there are a variety of reasons why I may embody a character while playing a game. I believe Sekiro, however, is a particularly unique example, as the player's skill, my skill, at the game is perfectly reflected by the character and the gameplay as one progresses through. In Sekiro, you play as a disgraced shinobi, after whom the game is named. The game begins with him waking up in a ditch, with barely even the will to live remaining, and attempting to sneak by the guards. He's rusty, wounded, and mentally broken, and as such, the player's lack of skill, only just having picked up the game, is reflected. In most games, the tutorial boss would serve as a challenging fight to force the player to test all of the core mechanics they have just learnt. But in Sekiro, this is not the case. Instead, you are plunged straight into the deep end against Genichiro, a monstrously skilled samurai, and the main antagonist of the game. The fight is filled with mechanics you haven't learnt yet, and unsurprisingly, you get stomped. Genichiro actually serves as a fantastic test of progress through the game, as you face him 3 times, and each time he will get easier to beat, as you master the game's combat. This progression is reflected in the character of Sekiro as well. In the first fight, he fumbles as he reaches for his sword. In the second, his grip is confident, and by the third, it's like second nature. Similarly, the fight is unbeatable the first time, exceptionally difficult the second time, and almost comically easy when you face him for the last time at the game's climax. This kind of final confrontation taking place in the same location as the very first fight, that you lost so horribly all those hours ago. In conclusion, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice has had a powerful impact on me in my enjoyment of games and how I think about playing and making them. It asked me to confront a part of myself I would usually avoid at all costs, and demonstrated my capability to commit horrendous acts in the name of a larger goal, even if only in the digital world. And it showed me what it feels like to master a skill and overcome brutal adversity through tenacity and focus. I will never forget this game, as long as I live, and I have no doubt it will inform my decision making and game design throughout my upcoming career.